Now, Ian Anderson has been the flautist, frontman and leader of Jethro Tull for nearly 45 years. His distinctive stance, standing on one foot playing the flute in between singing the vocals, put him and Jethro Tull on the musical map, which has led to, well, a couple of dozen albums, 32 singles. In 1972, Jethro Tull released the album Thick as a Brick, and last year Ian rushed out the sequel, Thick as a Brick 2, Whatever Happened to Gerald Bostock, which featured on last year's tour and will feature at the concert at the Royal Albert Hall on the 30th of June. This is not technically a Jethro Tull album. This is an Ian Anderson album. What is the difference in the structure there?
Well, in recent years, most of the things that I do that are more project-related, if it's a symphony orchestra tour, a string quartet, or the Christmas concerts, or whatever it might be, then I tend to use my own name, because we're getting away from the idea that it's just generic best of Jethro Tull.
Yeah.
So something like this, which, I mean, in this day and age, to do a prog rock concept album and then go out and play the whole thing live on tour all over the world is a little bit dangerous and crazy. So I wouldn't want to sully the name of Jethro Tull or some of those long history of many band members by not taking the rap myself. So
all right,
Ian Anderson it is.
But I think in the Albert Hall concert, though, you're going to get both albums. You're going to do the first half, the 72 album, and then this one. So
well, we did all this last year. In the UK on tour. This is the second bite of the cherry. In some countries, we're going back to do more concerts, and plus a few places we haven't been to before to do it. But yes, it is all of Thick as a Brick 1 as it was recorded originally, and then all of Thick as a Brick 2 just when you thought it was time to go home.
well, your fans will know
keep you in.
Gerald Bostock was the notional, the claim to be lyricist, the 10-year-old boy supposed to have written the first one, and in this one there's a sort of nostalgic feel to it, and you're sort of imagining what ifs might have been in his life, what might have happened to him over the last
in the same way as what might have happened to any of us who, as children, have our dreams and our ambitions, and in his case, being a little bit of a precocious schoolboy, he might have ended up being a politician, which was actually my first thought, that Gerald Bostock today, I thought he'd be a politician, but I saved that notion for the album cover and the real world today, and looked at some of the alternative. I wrote down about 15 different things, and of course you plunder a little bit of your own imagination. What might have happened to me if I'd been the art school teacher or the policeman or the other things that I might have thought about.
We all have possible lives. But the route that your life has gone down, you must be pretty pleased with it. It's worked out pretty well for you, hasn't it?
So far.
So far. There could be something down the line.
I'm not complaining.
So you're thinking about going into politics after all. Don't do it.
No. Well, I do have a few friends in the world of politics, and I do find it extremely interesting. I mean, fascinating, but I don't think yet it's a subject to write music. But even the concept album, I think.
But you set off with the band Jethro Tull. I've seen on your website you've got frequently asked questions, and I'm trying to avoid the questions you've obviously.
Well, I wrote them myself.
I know, but there's a sort of implication. I've answered all these so many times. But Jethro Tull was a name that sort of came about almost by chance. You kept changing your name originally because we
were so ropey that no one would rebook us in the clubs, is a simple answer. So our agent would give us a different name every week, and we would turn up at some club and say, well, who are we? If there was a name on the billboard that we didn't recognise, we would figure that must be us this week. And Jethro Tull just happened to be the name that stuck the day that John G., the manager of the Marquee Club, gave us a residency. So that was it.
So it wasn't the fact that you didn't hero worship this great agriculturist who transformed the life of the nation.
Not then, but subsequently. I mean, maybe it's just coincidence, but ending up being, if not a land farmer, an aquaculturalist later in life. Of course, the idea of farming and the revolution in technology, the revolution in methodology, which the original Jethro Tull was responsible for. One
of your landowners was in Scotland. You had I don't know if you still have, but you had an estate in Skye and fish farms and everything. Is that still?
I sold that to the John Muir Conservation Trust, and the fish farms were in the course of the last 10 years, I suppose. I just kind of gave it up progressively, getting to the point where it's either got to be music or you smell of fish rather than so, I thought better to be a full-time musician. So all of that, was a good part of life.
But that's a magnificent thing, is it's open to some rock stars. If the money is good enough, you can have the estate in Scotland and the farm in Wiltshire or whatever it is, and enjoy a pretty pleasant sounding life.
Yeah, but the 400 employees in the fish farms and factories were weighing heavily. I mean, their future depended on me as a then long-haired rock singer making the right decisions in an area of life which I would Well, I didn't know a huge amount about it when I started. I tried to learn as I went along. But it made me nervous. It must have made them nervous too. So when I sold, leased the companies to different people, I hope that it would go on forever. Sadly, some of it still goes on, some of it fell by the wayside.
And back to the frequently asked questions, the standing on one foot, that was it's claimed anyway in Wikipedia and elsewhere that was a response to a journalist saying that you stood on one foot to play the flute, so you did it in order to match the story.
I actually stood on one leg for the first time at the Marquee Club playing the harmonica, not unlike Lembit there. I was a blues harmonica player, and because, as you will know, to bend those notes, you actually suck rather than blow the blues harp. And when you suck them and your Marks and Spencer's underpants are a little bit too tight, as they were for me back then, you involuntarily raise a leg, and that's how it's happened with me doing the bending of the blues notes. I would lift one leg off the ground. And that became noticed. Oh, he plays the harmonica standing on one leg. And also he plays the flute as well. So, of course, people put the two things together, and I then had to learn to play the flute standing on one leg.
We didn't have to. It was a slightly odd thing to do.
I was compelled to do it. Yes. I was compelled to do it.
But why the flute? Again, there's another story that suggests you went into flute because, you do play the guitar as well.
Yeah. Well, I still play the guitar. You know, I'm a strummer. I'm an acoustic guitar player who uses it really as a tool for writing songs. But the flute was just... I mean, there was... At that point in time, there was Jeff Beck, Jimmy Page, there was obviously Eric Clapton, people we knew about who were the hotshot guitar gunslingers in town down south. And coming from the north of England, you know, I thought, well, I've got to find something else to do if I'm going to make my mark. And the flute just was a shiny thing hanging on the wall of the music shop that I was attracted to in the way a jackdaw is attracted to a piece of jewellery. It just seemed like a fun thing to have.
So you didn't think you play guitar as well as Eric Clapton? So
I'm sure that I don't, but I'm equally sure he doesn't play flute as well as I do.
To begin with, were you self-taught, or did you have tutors?
Then and now. I've never had a lesson in anything, really. I don't have a driving licence because I refuse to have lessons.
That's a bit perverse, isn't it?
I just don't like being told what to do. But it's a bit like you with 22-year-old production assistants. I just resent being told what to do by people who... Although I did learn to fly a Boeing 737, Series 400, by the way.
Self-taught. Trial and error.
Standing on one leg as well, which is the most extraordinary.
That was courtesy of a very pregnant British Airways lady pilot who was on maternity leave, who taught me how to fly a 737. I took off once and landed twice, figure that one out. It was, of course, the BA flight simulator in Heathrow Airport, but it was a brilliant experience. So I got a little thing on the wall that says, I can fly Boeing's 737, but I don't have a driving licence. But if I get stopped, I can just wave my 737 thing and get off lightly.
So musically, I'm coming towards the end of the programme, unfortunately, but musically, would you describe your music as prog rock? I was nervous when describing, categories, because people don't like to be described in...
No, and prog rock is a dirty word. I mean, but what we did when we started in 72 was to take something and make a little bit of a parody of it. I mean, this was the time of Monty Python, surreal British humour, which was above and beyond, the norm, and I think that culture is still with us today. The prog rock people, we didn't take it all so seriously. We weren't quite as arrogant and self-indulgent as made out. Most of them had a really good sense of humour about who they were.
Well, Rick Wakeman's a very jolly chap.
Mr. Lake and Palmer, they saw the funny side.
So you all getting together, you, Rick and Emerson, Lake and Palmer, all sniggering at the rest of the world, like, we'll play a 20-minute track, see if we can get away with it.
Well, I don't know about them, but the whole point was to try and go above and beyond what everybody else was doing, just for one album.
So your image then, wild hair, standing on one leg, usually wearing tights and a codpiece, playing the flute. How much of that was serious, and how much of that was?
Well, if you're going to wear a codpiece, you've got to be a little bit serious. As in fact, David Letterman said to my son-in-law, Andrew Lincoln, who's an actor in The Walking Dead, and he was interviewed on Letterman, and of course Letterman had to get in the picture of me in cod and codpiece and tights, being the father-in-law. So which of course is a bit embarrassing, but it's part of what defines you in history, and so you just roll with it. It's a bit of fun.
Oh well, excellent. Anyway,
there's your book. I am wearing it right now, in case you were going to.
Well, I think that's your autobiography from Codpiece to Fish Farm, Ian Anderson and Jethro Tull. That's the loose ends all tied up for this week. Thanks to all my guests, Ian Anderson, Lembit Opik and Linda LaPlante, Edwin Collins and Sarah Blasco, Joe Bunting and Murray Lachlan Young. Next week I'll be joined by Joan Collins and Jamie Cullum. Until then, from me for now, goodbye.